Hello, everybody. My name is Vicky Golasso. I'm a strength and conditioning specialist, CrossFit coach, and precision nutrition coach. So I'm here today to talk to you about food labels and kind of the misinterpretations of them that goes on a lot, and also what companies are trying to sell you on a lot of times. That is false advertising or something that maybe they're trying to go along with a fad diet or something like that. Basically ways that the food industry tries to trick you into buying their food, and what you can do to really look at food labels and what's in the food to be more educated and informed about what you're putting in your body. So just a quick background on my philosophy for food is that I think we should eat things that come from the earth, from the ground, as much as possible. The less wrappers, the better. I know that's really hard right now, especially for expenses, but there are ways, I do believe, that you can shop smarter to put things that are better for you in your body, and it doesn't have to break the bank. So I'm just gonna go straight into reading a couple food labels for you guys, showing you things that I got at the store, and all these things you can get at a regular grocery store or even at an Aldi. If you guys don't know what Aldi is, it is a super cheap grocery store that use local produce and local foods, and they cut costs by having you put your own groceries in the cart, bag your own groceries, bring your own bags, things like that. Save on packaging. So there's a really smart grocery store, and I highly recommend checking out Aldi if you haven't already. So I'll just kind of go into my first food that we're going to talk about today. I just have this creamy peanut butter. This is actually an Aldi find, so I think it's like $2, which is pretty good for peanut butter. I use peanut butter almost every day on toast or in sandwiches or in smoothies or things like that. But what I want to look at is the ingredients list for you guys, okay? So usually what I'll look for in a food label is something that has the least amount of ingredients. So if you look, the ingredients are below the nutrition facts. They're back here, and this has a really short list, which is pretty cool. I know if I grabbed this and compared it to a Jif peanut butter, this would have less ingredients, which is pretty cool. So the first ingredient here is dry roasted peanuts. So that means that by weight, the majority of what makes up this peanut butter is peanuts. That's a good thing, right? The number one ingredient is peanuts. The second ingredient, so the second heaviest thing in this is sugar, right? So we know this is made up of mostly peanuts, and then the second highest thing by weight is going to be sugar. The third is hydrogenated vegetable oils. We've probably heard that these aren't too good for us. And then after that, we have a mix of salt and molasses for texture. Okay, so there's about 6 ingredients on this. It's a pretty low ingredients list. However, those ingredients of, right, the second one being sugar, and then the hydrogenated oil being the third one, makes this healthy but not. So we want to make sure we check those labels to see just by weight what is in your food. A lot of times when I'm looking at even like packaged meats or things like that, you'll see sugar in the ingredients list, which is crazy because they're just adding sugar to everything. So especially if you have diabetes or something like that, you want to pay attention to those added sugars, okay? So that was the first one I wanted to share with you guys. Second one is just one of my favorite bars that I like to eat, which is a Luna bar. I am a competitive weightlifter and CrossFit athlete, so making sure I have a good amount of protein and not too much added sugars or fats is really important to me. So this stuff is in very low quantities when I do have it. It's like 1 tablespoon at a time. Before this bar, I like these Luna bars. They're made by Cliff Bar, which is the same, it's like the parent company. And I like their bars as a whole because their ingredients tend to be on the more like whole side without tasting terrible. So there are a few bars out there that taste pretty bad and have like 3 or 4 ingredients, which is great, but they get stuck in my teeth or something like that. So this one's kind of a good happy medium. And if I look at the ingredients list here, the very first ingredient is the protein grain blend, and that contains oats, soy protein, rice flour, soybeans, and soy flour. So these are all ingredients I can get behind, and by weight, that's what makes up the majority of this bar. So it's things that came from the ground, things that were ground up and put in here. So I really do appreciate that. The second ingredient is brown rice syrup, and then we have cane sugar, hickory fiber, sunflower oil, and palm kernel oil, okay? After that, we have natural flavors and lemon juice concentrate because it's a lemon bar. So I do like these bars. Again, they're delicious. They're kind of that in between. They're not 4 ingredients like dates and egg whites and things like that that I don't love, but they are on the better end when it comes to bars. So I do appreciate these Luna bars. Another thing that I want you guys to look at when it comes to food labels is reading, right, this chart, this graph that's on the back. Okay, so if you guys notice on this bar, for example, it's 190 calories. That's gonna be for the whole bar. Usually what it will say is serving size at the top. So if there's something like, I have a box of cereal over here, right? The serving size won't be the whole box. The serving size will be usually in that first column, 1 serving, and then we'll have the whole box. It'll say 17 servings per container. So that's up here. We're looking at 1 serving, which if you measure out is probably a little bit smaller than you think. And the next thing to look at are just the big categories that are under here. So you'll notice that the 3 main macronutrients, which is what makes up our diet, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, those are in bold letters. So you'll see the total fat is listed first. We have 6 grams here. Total carbohydrates is 28 grams. And then the protein is 8 grams. So those again are in bold, and that's what we want to kind of look at when we look at these labels. So now under those categories, you can see like for fat, for example, you can see the types of fat right underneath: saturated fat, trans fat, and polyunsaturated fat, okay? We have a little bit of saturated fat, 0 trans fat, which is great. We don't want any trans fat in our foods, and 1 gram of polyunsaturated fat, pretty decent. When I get onto carbohydrates, the types of carbs are underneath that. We have fiber, we have insoluble fiber, which means it just can't digest or absorb. And then we have total sugars, and then we have added sugars. So the dietary fiber is 3 grams. I would say you want to get around 30 grams of fiber a day. That's just going to keep everything moving, keep you regular. Well, there's only 1 gram of insoluble fiber. So if you look at the total of 3 grams, 1 of those 3 grams is insoluble, so that's not really going to help you. So this bar is maybe not what you would look for having something that has fiber in it for you. I would turn to like fruits and vegetables, like apples have a lot of good fiber content for you. And then under that, we have the total sugars. We have 9 grams, and all 9 of those are added sugars, okay? So I would look at the added sugars here. I try to minimize them, so that's why these are kind of like a treat for me. So we have the 9 grams of added sugars that are in here, whereas if I looked at maybe my new favorite yogurt that has 25 grams of protein in it, if I look at this ingredients list, this food label, there are 0 grams added sugar. That means this company used natural sweeteners and they didn't have to add any sugar to it to make it sweeter, which is really good. You want to look for things like that. So again, this yogurt is my favorite for that reason. They don't have any added sugars. There's 3 grams of natural occurring sugars because of the fruit. And that's what we want. There's no syrups, there's no cane sugar, there's no glucose, sucrose, all of that stuff, okay? So the natural glucose that's in foods is gonna be in this, which is really cool. If I look back at my peanut butter, for example, let's look at the carbohydrates here. There's 8 grams of carbohydrates per serving, 2 grams of fiber, 4 grams of sugar, and 2 of those 4 grams of sugar are added sugars. So half the sugar is fake, half the sugar is natural in this. And you can do that with any food label. If I look at my Cheerios, and a good staple here, the total carbohydrates are 29 grams per serving. The total sugars are 2 grams and the added sugars are 1 gram. This is one of the least sugary cereals you can get. That's why I get it, because there's not a lot of added sugars and it's kind of like a good simple carbohydrate. And I'll actually drink or use a drinkable protein shake as my milk here. So either if you have a shaker bottle with protein or one of those ready-made protein shakes, I'll pour it in with this. So then I get a pretty balanced carb, fat, and protein meal out of that. And it makes it yummy because I have chocolate flavored protein. So it's pretty good. The last thing I wanted to point out, and this is just stuff I grabbed from my pantry and my fridge to show you guys, is my Starkist tuna in a packet. Don't underestimate tuna. But what I love about this, and most brands of things like this, when you look for packaged meat or like a meal, something like this I can just have with some crackers or with some avocado, is looking at the ingredients. So we have tuna, water, sunflower oil, and salt. That's pretty dang simple, right? So especially with meats that you're adding to your body, we want to see not a lot of chemicals put into those things. So tuna is something I always have on hand. We have 18 grams of protein in this, which is a lot, which is really great. 4 grams of fat, and all of those are going to be natural occurring fats from the tuna, and 0 carbohydrates because it's a meat and there's no sugars in this. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. So quick review, right? Read the food labels, look at the ingredients list, right? Long ingredients lists are gonna mean there's more chemicals. They had to do more to make that food in a factory to package it up for you. Shorter ingredients list is more natural, right? If there's 3 to 5 ingredients, that's a very good find, especially for a grocery store. Second thing that you wanna look at, right, is looking at the carbohydrates, the fats, and the proteins on there. We wanna try to get something that has higher protein if you're looking for fitness gains, muscle gains, things like that. And then big thing is just check under the carbohydrates to see how much added sugars are there, right? So they'll have the carbohydrate category, and then right under that, you'll have the added sugars. Try to go for 0, right, added sugars, or very low added sugars. And you can see, again, what they're adding to the food to make it sweeter, right? Have something that's not naturally occurring in the food. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a little bit more about food labels and what companies are doing to sell you different things, but please be more aware of what you're putting in your body. It'll make a huge difference when you start kind of looking at that. And then please reach out if you guys have any questions. I run Golasso Athletics. I have some online training that you guys can do, and also one-on-one coaching. So if you liked this and you got some good information on it, make sure to please give me a good review and look for my new content. Thanks.